Bismillaahi walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala wa ba'd. Indeed, brothers and sisters, from the noble characteristics of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, from the characteristics that they have been praised for in the past up until the present day, is that which is related to them having thabat upon the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. And that is them being firm upon the deen of Allah subhanahu wa shiddatu tamassuk. And them having shiddat at-tamassuk. Yani strong, staunch clinging to the kitab and the sunnah of the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that, brothers and sisters, was something that Allah Azza wa Jal addressed the previous nations with. Allah Azza wa Jal mathalan mentions concerning the Yahud, Allah mentions وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَكُمْ وَرَفَعْنَا فَوْقَكُمُ الطُّورَ خُذُوا مَا آتَيْنَاكُمْ بِقُوَّةٍ. And when we took your covenant from you and we raised the mountain above you, saying, خُذُوا مَا أَتَيْنَاكُمْ بِقُوَّةٍ, yani hold on to and cling fast to that which we have given you. Yani hold on to it with quwwah, with strength, firmly. Similarly, Allah Azza wa Jal addressed the prophets and the messengers with the same. يَا يَحْيَا خُذِ الْكِتَابَ بِقُوَّةٍ وَآتَيْنَاهُ الْحُكْمَ صَبِيًّا. Allah mentions, O Yahyah, hold on to the book biquwwah, with strength. Yani hold fast to the book, hold tight to the book. And indeed we gave him wisdom while yet a child. And so Allah Azza wa Jal addresses the prophets and the messengers with that. And that address, brothers and sisters, is not just so that we may be informed of what occurred in the past, but it is an address, brothers and sisters, that is a command likewise for this ummah, that we do the same. For indeed it is a praiseworthy characteristic that Allah Azza wa Jal mentions concerning the prophets and the messengers, that they held on to the book, to the kitab and the sunnah, and they held fast to that. Brothers and sisters, Ahlus Sunnah likewise continue upon that path of tamassuk, shiddat at-tamassuk bis-sunnah, that they cling onto the sunnah, hold fast to the sunnah, and they did not play games, brothers and sisters, with the usul of their deen particularly, or with the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal generally. And so the affair of at-tamassuk is that which we saw Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah being upon. That Allah Azza wa Jal raised alim after alim after alim, imam after imam. And all of them, brothers and sisters, when one reads their biographies and studies their lives, from their manaqib and from their praiseworthy characteristics is their shiddat at-tamassuk bis-sunnah. وَكَانَ شَدِيدًا عَلَى السُّنَّةِ, that he was shadeed upon the sunnah, they used to say. And so these were characteristics of praise. And brothers and sisters, when Ahlus Sunnah have the usul that they do, and when they have the characteristics in relation to their knowledge of the deen and their knowledge of the fundamentals of the religion, that correct, sound, pure knowledge, why wouldn't they have this tamassuk to that which is correct and sound and pure? We mentioned the statement of the Messenger ﷺ, تَرَكْتُكُمْ عَلَى مِثْلِ الْبَيْضَالِ لَيْلُهَا كَنَهَارِهَا لَا يَزِيغُ عَنْهَا إِلَّا هَالِكٌ. I have left you upon that which is pure and white. Its night is like its day, and no one deviates away from it other than one who is destroyed. And that, no doubt, is what Ahlus Sunnah recognize concerning what they have. Similarly, they hold on to an important characteristic from their methodology, and that is the issue of at-tasfiyah wa-tarbiyah. At-tasfiyah wa-tarbiyah. That is, tasfiyah, purifying the deen from additions, accretions, anything that has been added to it and ascribed to it, and tarbiyah, nurturing the jeel, nurturing the new generation upon that pure Islam. No, may Allah Azza wa Jal show you mercy, that tasfiyah will not occur, brothers and sisters, except by way of certain sciences and by certain principles. From those affairs, brothers and sisters, from the sciences that have serviced the deen and kept the deen pure, is the ilm of al-jarh wa ta'deel, the knowledge of al-jarh wa ta'deel. Likewise, the knowledge of an-naqd. An-naqd, brothers and sisters, is the knowledge of criticizing groups, ideas, ideologies, thought, and thinkers. And other than that, brothers and sisters, from the things and from those who bring to Islam that which was not from it. And without the likes of these sciences, Islam, brothers and sisters, would have become corrupt. That if Islam was left to the devices of the people, left to the ara, left to the opinion. And people were just allowed to bring to Islam whatever they please and to pick and choose from that which Allah Azza wa Jal has given us to change that which Allah Azza wa Jal had blessed us with. Then, brothers and sisters, we would have seen a very different Islam to the Islam that we know and that Allah Azza wa Jal has preserved for us. But on the basis of the affair of al-Naqd, on the basis of the affair of al-Jarh wa Ta'deel, and the likes of these sciences of disparaging and praising, we have the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal being protected and preserved, and we have, brothers and sisters, the pristine Islam that we have today. And so this affair of tasfiyah and tarbiyah, purifying, nurturing, is from the methodology of Ahlus Sunnah. No doubt, brothers and sisters, the two are like two wings of a bird. That one purifies and nurtures. We do not nurture alone and we don't purify alone. But rather, one purifies the deen and nurtures. And no doubt, brothers and sisters, the one who does not concentrate upon purification, then he will be nurturing inevitably upon that which is batil. Inevitably, something from batil is going to creep into his tarbiyah, because of the fact that tarbiyah, brothers and sisters, relies upon tasfiyah. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions, هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة. That it is He who has sent among the unlettered ones a messenger from them, reciting to them the verses. And then listen to how Allah Azza wa Jal describes Him. وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ. Reciting to them the verses, and that occurs in the dua of Ibrahim. Reciting, send among them, Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned, send among them a messenger that will teach them, or recite to them the verses and teach them the book and purify them. When Allah Azza wa Jal responded to the dua of Ibrahim, Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned, it is He who has sent among the unlettered one a messenger from among them. يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِ, reciting to them the verses and purifying them and teaching them the book and the wisdom. Allah reversed the affair, and the mention of purification came before teaching. And so, brothers and sisters, the manhaj of tasfiyah and tarbiyah is present within the Quran. And so Allah Azza wa Jal informs us of the fact that tasfiyah and tarbiyah are two affairs that the messenger came with, that he purified and he taught. From the things that have to be purified, brothers and sisters, are those issues that relate to the usul and the fundamentals of our religion. And if an individual attempts to bring to it, bring to this deen, whether he realizes it is something that is muhdatha, or an affair that is created and new, and an innovated affair and a novelty, whether he realizes that or not, it must be clarified to the people in general. And it is amazing that we see people becoming upset that individuals should be criticized about adding to Islam that which is not from it. Rather, brothers and sisters, they should be pleased that someone has clarified that, and they should be upset at the individual that added to Islam that which was not from it. And so, brothers and sisters, let us have, and let us not reverse the affair. Let us have the balance of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. While we're on the topic of balance, we should likewise know that when we're looking at scales, because oftentimes our brother mentions the affair of justice. Those who are just would say, and the just one will look at the issue and say, brothers and sisters, the affair of justice has been explained by our ulama. Our scholars, rahimahullaah, have discussed adl, what it is exactly. For example, we have the statement of Imam al-Jurjani, who mentions al-adl al-amru al-mutawassit bayn al-ifrat wa-tafriq. That al-adl, justice, is that balanced affair between al-ifrat and al-tafriq. It is between negligence and between extremism. So it is not extreme, neither is it negligent. Rather, it is an affair that is between those two. And that is, again, imperative that we understand that al-adl is an affair that is between those two. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he mentions concerning adl that it is to put everything in its correct and proper place. That is al-adl. وضع الشيء في موضعه. To put everything in its correct and proper place. And that has a connection to hikmah. Because hikmah and wisdom have been given similar definitions. It is to put everything in its correct and proper place. This is of the essence that we understand. Adl, it is to put everything in its correct and proper place. Al-hikmah, as some of Ahlul Ilm, like Shaykh Salih al-Shaykh has mentioned, that hikmah is to put everything in its correct and proper place with a view to a praiseworthy outcome. With a view to a praiseworthy outcome. That is the additional affair as it relates to hikmah. Adl is to put everything in its correct and proper place. And al-hikmah is to put everything in its correct and proper place with a view to a praiseworthy outcome. And that would necessitate then that from hikmah and from adl is that we're not extreme. Neither are we negligent. Rather, we're upon a balance. And the knowledge of what is extreme and the knowledge of what is negligent does not return back, brothers and sisters, to istihsan. It doesn't return back to what we see to be good, what we make istihsan of. As far as we're concerned, then our view of balance is such and such. Our view of justice is such and such. Rather, brothers and sisters, it returns back to what the Salaf of this ummah understood to be balanced and just. And it returns back to how the Salaf of this ummah acted in any one given issue. And so when we're speaking about balance and justice, we understand the affair of balance and justice through the scope and through the view of the Salaf of this ummah. We analyze and look at the affair of the balance of the Salaf. How were they? And then we analyze our actions in accordance with that. Imam al-Barbahari rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions in Sharh al-Sunnah, انظر رحمك الله لكل من سمعت كلامه من أهل زمانك الخاصة. He said, look, may Allah show you mercy to any individual that you hear him speak in your time specifically. فلا تعجلن ولا تدخلن في شيء منه. He said, and don't be hasty and don't enter into anything from it. And that is, brothers and sisters, that we don't say, MashaAllah, that brother speaks well. MashaAllah, that was a beautiful explanation. MashaAllah, I never looked at it like that before. Listen to the advice of Imam al-Barbahari. He mentions, فَلَا تَعْجَلًا, and don't be hasty. وَلَا تَدْخُلَنَّ فِي شَيْءٍ مِّنْهُ, and don't enter into anything from it. حَتَّى تَسْأَلْ وَتَنْظُرْ, until you ask and you look and you ask and question yourself. هل تكلم به أصحاب رسول الله أو أحد من العلماء فإن وجدت فيه أثرا عنهم فتمسك به ولا تجاوزه لشيء ولا تختار عليه شيء فتسقط في النار. He said that indeed the first thing that you should do is ask yourself, is this something that the companions of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ mentioned and spoke with? Or any of the ulama? If you find a narration from them, فَتَمَسَّكْ بِهِ, then hold and cling onto it. وَلَا تُجَاوِزْهُ لِشَيْءٍ, and don't go past it for anything. وَلَا تَخْتَارُ عَلَيْهِ شَيْءٍ فَتَسْقُطْ فِي النَّارِ, and don't choose anything over it and thus fall into the fire. And so any issue that we're looking at in our time, let us not, brothers and sisters, be naive. Let us not be individuals who are shallow and fickle individuals. Rather, let us look at that issue through the lens of the Salaf of this ummah and how they were. And it is important, brothers and sisters, that we reflect upon this and look at it correctly. Because our brother Abu Usaama, hadahullah, makes a number of claims throughout his pieces of advice. And his claims, brothers and sisters, in actuality fall into the same dhulm and the same abandonment of justice that he accuses others of. And he makes those claims knowing that he abandons justice and abandons that which is balanced and right and exact. An example of that, brothers and sisters, is how he describes the brothers at Salafi publications and the Salafis generally. How he refers to them, using descriptions, brothers and sisters, that are descriptions of dhulm, oppressive, false, deceitful descriptions of individuals who he knows better don't actually exist in the manner in which he describes them. Listen to this description of his.
We have two extremes today. We have one extreme of Salafi people who are too rough and too tough. If you're not with them, they warn against you. They don't smile, they don't give you love. They think they're the best. They just boycott and they refute people. That's an extreme, and I'm against that. And we don't want to cultivate ourselves on that. We don't want to cultivate the shabab upon that. There's a position of refutation in al-Islam. There's a position in the religion where we have to deal with people of innovation. We have all of those dalils at its proper place and time from the religion. But to do it all the time without knowledge, it becomes hizbiyah. Rough and tough, ghulad mutashaddidin. Here in Birmingham, in Toronto, and other than that, those people believe they're the only Salafis in the world. And if you don't agree with them, you're mubtadi'. You make a mistake in something that you say or something that you do, they want to throw you off of the minhaj, although they make mistakes just as many or just as severe. But it's hizbiyah. Point is, it's extreme.
And so, brothers and sisters, subhanallah, we hear a number of descriptions our brother gives to those who he criticizes. And those descriptions, brothers and sisters, are descriptions that revolve around dhulm and oppression. The very same dhulm and oppression that he accuses others of. He mentions concerning them that they are rough and tough. He mentions concerning them that if you're not with them, then they warn against you. He says that they don't smile, subhanallah, and they don't show love. They think they're the best. They just boycott. They just refute, and these are all his words. They're extreme, and we don't want to cultivate our youth upon that. And to do it all the time, yani speaking about Ahlul Bid'ah and whatnot, to do it all the time, it becomes hizbiyah. And I don't know what the definition of hizbiyah is with him. They believe that they're the only Salafis in the world, he mentions. And if you don't agree with them, then you're a mubtadi'. And if you make a mistake in something that you say, they throw you off the manhaj. And the point is that it's all hizbiyah. And so these characteristics, brothers and sisters, we see him describing the people of Sunnah with in Birmingham and outside of Birmingham. And as we mentioned in the first session, in actuality, it is his description of the people of Sunnah across the globe, in the four corners of the earth. Palestine, Iraq, Kurdistan, Morocco, Lithuania even. And so, ikhwan, haqiqatan, and the reality is that those descriptions are descriptions that are based around dhulm. And the descriptions, brothers and sisters, that Abu Usaama, he knows that when he makes such statements, he has an intent behind those statements. And we're not looking into intents. But when you make a statement like rough and tough, and it is something that we constantly hear being reiterated, that these brothers are rough and tough. Why not, if you were just, say, strong and firm? Why not strong and firm? Because if you use strong and firm, then it becomes praiseworthy. And the intent of our brother is to criticize, and the intent of our brother is to destroy those who hold on to this methodology. And that is a shame. Because the reality is, brothers and sisters, that while he speaks ill of the people of Sunnah and speaks ill of the people of Salafiyah, and even, ikhwan, uses terminologies that are derogatory, refers to them as individuals who have no aql, because the one who has aql wouldn't do such and such, refers to them as being unjust, and all these other descriptions that we've mentioned here. Even the manner in which he refers to the scholars that they refer to, that he accepts as scholars, and he speaks about them as though they're just other youth among this batch. From his injustice is him referring to them as youth. These young brothers we hear constantly being mentioned, while he knows there is not one of the admin of Salafi publications except that he has reached his prime in manhood. As Allah Azza wa Jalla has mentioned, حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَبَلَغَ 40 سَنَةً, until he reaches his prime and he reaches 40 years. Brothers and sisters, there is not one of the admin at Salafi publications except that he's reached his prime. Whether we're addressing our brother Abu Khadija Abdul Wahid, Hafidhahu al-Mawla, he's reached his prime. Our brother Abu Iyal reached his prime. Our brother Abu Fudayl reached his prime. Our brother Muhammad Abu Idris reached his prime. Myself similarly reached my prime. If we're looking at the ayah in which Allah Azza wa Jal discusses the prime age of a man, حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَبَلَغَ 40 سَنَةً, until he reaches his prime and he reaches 40 years. In fact, from us are those who have children who are adults. I myself have a number of adult children. In fact, my son Hakeem, bihamdillah, is a father and has his son Affan bin Hakeem ibn Bilal ibn Ahmad, hafidhahumullah wa rahima man mata minhum. So who exactly is our brother speaking about, these youth? Who are these youth exactly? If the intent is the brothers who attend the masjid, then that same age group attends their masjid. And so why the dhulm, ya akhi? So when you're speaking of fearing Allah Azza wa Jalla, let us apply some of that taqwa to ourselves. And brothers and sisters, it doesn't surprise us, as we mentioned in the first session, that a statement should be made because of the fact that, as we've mentioned, what is clear for the one who is aware of our brother and that which he's upon is that he follows and traverses the path of the likes of Abu al-Hasan al-Ma'ribi. And we find him constantly making mention of Abu al-Hasan al-Ma'ribi. And that, brothers and sisters, is that we see, lil-asaf, and unfortunately, and it is sad to say, but we see on one hand dispraise of the people of Sunnah. Individuals who, if they are, as you say they are, ignorant, youth, young, then is that the usloob and is that the approach, brothers and sisters, to wipe the floor with them? While on the other hand, brothers and sisters, we see praise for individuals who have been disparaged. Hafidhahullah, Hafidhahullah. And praise, brothers and sisters, for individuals who are clear mubtadi'ah. Individuals, ayyuhal ikhwa, that the scholars have spoken against. Individuals that our scholars have written books about. Detailed books. Those who make music halal and singing halal. And in fact, those who have made statements such as, if Allah Himself, which was the statement of Yusuf al-Qaradawi, if Allah Himself had come down, this was after the voting that took place in Israel, and after the individual who was voted in received 99% of the votes, if Allah Himself had come down, wal-iyadhu billah, then He would not have got the amount of votes that this individual got. Yusuf al-Qaradawi, a clear mubtadi'. Yet we find, brothers and sisters, in speaking about the likes of Yusuf al-Qaradawi, we find him being mentioned with terms of endearment. Listen again to the statement of Abu Usaama concerning Yusuf al-Qaradawi.
From the contemporary scholars, and he is a scholar, is the Shaykh Yusuf al-Qaradawi.
From the contemporary scholars, and he is a scholar, a Shaykh Yusuf al-Qaradawi. An individual, ikhwan, who some of Ahl al-Ilm refer to his book Al-Halal wal-Haram in Islam as Al-Halal wal-Halal in Islam. The one who makes, ikhwan, and haqiqatan to discuss him would require a separate lecture, to discuss his balaya and the many evils that have come from this individual. Yet still we find this praise and these terms of endearment for such a one. Yet still the people of Sunnah, rough and tough, mutashaddideen, just boycott, corrupt manhaj, hizbiyun, haddadiyun, and nothing, brothers and sisters, but dispraise for them. And that, no doubt, is ajib, ya Abu Usaama. And that is indicative of the fact that our brother is upon the manhaj of at-tamyi'. The methodology that our scholars, the scholars of the Sunnah, have spoken about and have spoken against in a number of their writings and lectures and in a number of their pieces of advice. Shaykh Rabi' Hafidhahullah was asked relatively recently about the affair of tamyi'. What is it exactly? And how would you describe it, and what does it mean? And he mentions that the affair of tamyi', he mentions يقصد بها أن أناسا يأتون على أصول الإسلام ويميعونها ويرققونها ويهونون من شأنها بل يحاربونها بارك الله فيك ويسمون يعني المنهج السلفي ووقوف أهله في وجه أهل البدعة والذب عن السنة يسمونه شدة والتشدد وسموا ذلك غلو وكذبوا وأفكوا. He mentions that indeed tamyi', or this affair of weakening or having this weak position, that it is to approach, or it is a people who approach the fundamentals of Islam and they weaken them and soften them, and they belittle their station. In fact, they fight against them. Barakallah feek. And they refer to the manhaj al-Salafi, and the people of the manhaj al-Salafi standing in the face of the people of innovation and defending the Sunnah. They refer to that as shidda, as being harsh. And they call it tashaddud, harshness. And they refer to it as ghulu, as extremism. And they lie and they fabricate. And then our Shaykh, he mentions, and this is a point, brothers and sisters, that all of us have to understand, particularly in this latter age, and particularly in an age when we have now become disconnected from the true methodology of the Salaf. And that is by way of us becoming disconnected from the books of the Salaf. Because wallahi, ikhwan, if we were to study the books of the Salaf, then we would come to the same conclusion that our Shaykh has come to. And I remember studying with the Shaykh and others from among our mashayikh in Medina in the 90s through to the early 2000s and those early years, that constantly our mashayikh would make mention of that when we used to study those books with our scholars. Sharh Usul I'tiqad Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Al-Ibanah al-Kubra of Ibn Battah, Al-Sharia of Imam al-Ajurri, Al-Sunnah of Ibn Abi Asim, Al-Sunnah of Imam Khalal. That when we would study those books and come across those narrations and reflect upon them, and our scholars would explain them, you would see clearly, ikhwan, that there is the world of difference between us and the Salaf of this ummah. And our Shaykh, then he continues, Wallahi, Wallahi alladhi la ilaha illa hu, la yujad shidda al-an fi al-Salafiyyin al-Masakin. He said, by Allah, who there is no deity worthy of worship but Him, there is no shidda now among the Salafiyyin. They're miskeen, poor individuals. وَإِنَّهُ مَهْمَا تَشَدَّدَ السَّلَفِيُّونَ فِي مُوَاجَهَةِ الْبَاطِلِ وَالْبِدْعَةِ. He said, regardless of how harsh and how firm they are in this time with the people of batil, or in the face of batil and bid'ah, they have not reached ushur, a fraction of that which the Salaf of this ummah were upon from shiddah with Ahlul Bid'ah, to the extent that they commanded some of them with killing them. And that, of course, were those who were in positions of jurisdiction and leadership, the A'immah, the Imams and the Hukam, that some of them, they were killed. وَيُطَارِدُونَهُمْ, and some of them were expelled and exiled, and they were boycotted. وَيَضْرِبُونَهُمْ, and they were beaten, and they were humiliated. وَنَحْنُ السَّلَفِيُّونَ مَا عِنْدَنَا شَيْء مَسَاكِينَ. He said, but as far as the Salafiyun in our time, we have nothing with us, in comparison to what they were upon. And so in actuality, we now are mutasahilin as it relates to bid'ah and innovation and dealing with innovation. And another one of the innovated affairs, brothers and sisters, and the innovated principles is the fact that these principles of Salafiyah are now not applicable because of the age that we live in. And that is exactly how Tamyi' manifests. Because of the age that we live in, then these principles are not applicable. And brothers, this affair of Tamyi' is from the principles that are utilized by the groups that are known as the Jama'at al-Tajmi'iyya. The Jama'at al-Tajmi'iyya are those groups and those parties that have no concern except to gather as many people under their banner as possible. To gather as many people with them as possible. And so you'll find them staying away from those things that, as far as they are concerned, cause people to leave them. And so they won't speak about certain branches of Tawheed. They won't speak about certain affairs of aqeedah. They won't speak, mathalan, about Tawheed al-Asma' wa Sifat, because there are many different types of Muslims who understand Tawheed differently. If we speak about those affairs and bring the haqq in those affairs, then those individuals are going to get upset. They won't be with us any longer, so we'll leave that alone. They're careful about how they speak about Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, because again, from the Muslims are those who have certain beliefs concerning ibadah and certain things that you can and can't do. If you speak about those issues, then we won't have them under our roof, and thus we'll leave those issues alone. And on the basis of this desire for tajmi', to have the greatest number of individuals under our roof, we fall into the abandonment of the principles and the qawa'id of the manhaj al-Salafi. And we forfeit applying and the application of the principles that the Salaf of this ummah were always upon. And so, brothers and sisters, we need to understand that this is an affair that is not a game. The manhaj al-Salafi ikhwan and the Salaf of this ummah were praised because of their shiddat at-tamassuk bis-sunnah. But as we mentioned, it's no surprise for the one who analyzes and he views and knows and studies the positions of Abu Usaama, he will see clearly that Abu Usaama is upon nothing other than the methodology of Abu Hassan al-Ma'ribi. He's upon nothing other than the principles and qawa'id that were laid down by Abu Hassan al-Ma'ribi. And Abu Hassan al-Ma'ribi, brothers and sisters, was an individual that had somewhere in the region of over 120 refutations from the people of Sunnah, from the scholars of Ahlus Sunnah, and from the Talamid against him, because of the principles that he brought about. Over 120. And he had a number of sittings with the scholars of Medina. While we were in Medina, the scholars sat with him on a number of occasions, and they concluded that he's a person of innovation.